I want to speak about 5 things we learned from the GAA Football All-Ireland Final 2022. Yesterday, Kerry and Galway, what a game. 20 points to Kerry, 16 to Galway. I wouldn't worry too much about when people are saying it wasn't a 4-point game and Galway didn't deserve to lose by 4 points. I think that didn't really matter. Once it came to the last few minutes, once Kerry kind of got over the line, it didn't really matter in the end how much they won by. But what a game. It was so equal all the way through. I think there was something like it was level 11 times or something like that. It was tit for tat, very much in the melting pot right until the end. But I just want to focus on 5 quick things that I personally took from the game as a keen follower of the sport. First of all, during it I was saying about how it was the David Clifford and Shane Walsh show, which it very much was, and in some ways maybe even Shane Walsh could have, earned a Man of the Match award, obviously if Galway had won. Traditionally it's always given to the winning team, but you could possibly say that Shane Walsh actually played better. However, the victors always write the history. And I think in time it'll become known as the David Clifford final for 2 reasons. Very simply, as I mentioned, is that Kerry won. David Clifford was the one who basically took them over the line with 8 points during the game. So I think in time people tend to forget about the player on the losing team. They'll remember it somewhat, obviously, but it will become known as the David Clifford final, I think. The second reason for that as well is this is the first final David Clifford has won of we don't know how many yet. I was saying to a couple of my brothers after the game as well that in time we might look back and say David Clifford is the greatest of all time Gaelic footballer. He definitely has the potential. I think in my own personal time, he's probably the most gifted player I've ever seen, and that includes the Gooch, Peter Canavan, Pádraig Joyce, Michael Donnellan, Brian Fenton, Kieran Kilkenny, Con, there's some top class players there. Matty Ford, the great Matty Ford, but he has the most ability. And the one thing that people could have said is that he didn't yet have the medals to kind of back it up. Well, he does now have the first medal. He's man of the match in the final, got a winner's medal. I think he'll be Footballer of the Year. This will be his 4th or 5th All-Star in a row. I think 4th All-Star in a row. He could go on to be the best ever. And he's certainly the best player in my time anyway. So I think it'll be known as David Clifford final. Secondly, from a Galway point of view, I think Damien Comer will look back with massive regret on this game, and Galway in general will look back on with regret. I thought at half time Galway had played so well in the first half. So many things went right for them as a team and as an attack, but yet they were still only 1 point up, and Kerry hadn't come into kind of full gear yet, and they were only a point behind, and that made me think at half time, do you know what, I think Kerry are going to actually go on and win this game. In the second half, which I'll talk about in a second, Kerry really started motoring and opened up, but especially Damien Comer just didn't really get into the game as much as he would have liked. Obviously Foley marked him very well. Tadhg Morley at centre back dropped in front of him, so he was being double marked. However, a player of his ability, with his stature, with his reputation, an iconic player for Galway at the moment, they really needed him to be in the game a little bit more. And in the last few minutes he actually came into the game, he forced a turnover, he kind of got into his stride. If that had happened earlier in the game, it could have been a completely different performance by Comer, because without knowing the guy himself, I'm guessing he feeds off that little bit of aggression and getting on a ball like that and taking a hit. It would have been great for him early in the game, get a hit or give a hit or get a shot off at the post or something just to get him in the game, and it could have been a different scenario. And if he had performed a bit better even to help Shane Walsh, Galway could have got it over the line, because they were at the end there, they were a little bit lacking, made a few poor decisions, kicked a few wides. I mean, their scoring shot efficiency by the end wasn't great. It was quite close to Kerry's actually in the first half, and just in a game of tight margins, that could have been the thing that would have gotten him over the line. So I think he'll look back with regret. The Kerry players, I'm sure 100% will be back in All-Ireland finals. Galway, hard to say. I think they will over the next few years if they keep developing like they are under Pádraig Joyce and a good management team there, but it's not for sure. Thirdly, as we all know, finals are decided by fine margins, and I think in this game especially you could really see that. And particularly I would go back to 5 minutes to go, Galway centre back Daly's coming out with the ball, Killian Spillane on as sub for Kerry tackles him with a really tough tackle across the kind of midriff or the chest. My wife was wondering why it wasn't a free. I said it is a free in Gaelic football, but you get away with it, and I wouldn't expect that to be given as a free. I personally thought immediately it was a free out because Spillane had gone in quite hard and everything like that, and normally the defender always gets that free. However, on the replay, and with the benefit of the replay that the referee didn't have, obviously, you could clearly see that the defender grabbed the arm of Spillane and pulled him with him. And it is a nickety kind of free that some referees can give. So the assessor in the stand will look at that and go, if that's not given as a free, that'll be a little tick against the referee and saying, well, it should have been actually technically a free. So technically, correct decision, it's a free. In that moment, in the white heat of battle, last few minutes of an All-Ireland final, I've seen them given for and against, where you might think, okay, the defender might get a free for that. On the whole, in my own personal opinion, I thought it was the right decision because it was a foul and it's right to give a foul. The other one that I heard, and sorry, going back to that, without that, Kerry may not have won that game because Galway had got back level. Kerry just looked a little bit out on their feet. They looked a bit flat. I remember saying to the people I was watching the game with that I don't know where the next score is kind of coming from in the next couple of minutes, and all of a sudden they get that turnover. You see the reaction from the Kerry players. David Clifford whips it over really coolly, and all of a sudden I thought, okay, this game is done actually, and it was. The other one that some people mentioned to me, which I feel it's a load of nonsense actually, was when someone said about the goal kick being kicked out and the Galway players not being outside the 21 yard line, which is an obvious hot ball or throw-in ball. And some people said, no, but in that moment of the game, the context of the match should be taken into consideration. It's an All-Ireland final. That, I think, is an absolute nonsense. I think if a rule is there, it's a rule that's to be adhered to at all stages. It's like saying the ball went out over the sideline, but it's the last minute of the game, so let's just play on. Absolute nonsense. Another one, number 4, and I love this. I'm going to do a little Twitter thread about this, I think, because I think it's so important. Jack O'Connor's brave decision pays off at half-time. I'm not sure people realise how brave a decision that is, because I heard James O'Donoghue, who's speaking about it, former Kerry great, like David Moran and Paul Geaney, great lads. They're such big characters in that dressing room. You know, they're the older crew. They've won the All-Ireland. They've been there, done it before. So taking those guys off could be a real negative. First of all, because they've done it all before, but also they're big voices, big characters in the dressing room. Secondly, which is really important, is that the Spillanes are kind of Kerry's trump cards. So like bringing them from the bench with maybe 20 minutes to go, fresh legs, young lads, hugely talented, very industrious. That's the kind of point at which Kerry can get over the line by Jack O'Connor bringing those two lads on 20 minutes to go in the second half when some legs are tired from Kerry and Galway. So to actually make that decision at half time, to take away that trump card, to take off those big characters off the pitch, those kind of leaders, it was a massive decision, huge decision, massive decision in an All-Ireland final. I mean, things could have gone badly wrong from then on in. And remember as well, Kerry were only a point down, so like they were completely in that game. So to make that decision at that point in the game, I thought was incredible and showed real bravery. And I liked what he said afterwards about how he's a bit long in the tooth now to feel pressure, that he's been there, he's an older guy, And I kind of like that and appreciate that. I've never been Jack O'Connor's fan as a personality, because I like to see people in the game show a bit more personality, energy, their character, stuff like that. But 4 All-Irelands during 3 different periods, all of them following up on Tyrone's wins amazingly. It's some record, incredible record, and he deserves huge kudos for making that one decision. Lastly then, and I dare say it, number 5, football is in great health. We've got Derry coming through with a very different system. Donegal still hanging around there. Armagh have definitely taken a step forward. A couple of steps back, but actually probably a few steps forward, 1 step back maybe. But they're definitely in a shout for Ulster, certainly. Tyrone will be back as previous All-Ireland champions. Galway now have really hit a new level. Mayo, depending on their new manager, I'm sure will be thereabouts at all stages. Cork, perennial underachievers. At some stage those lads have to sort their stuff out. Maybe over the next coming years they'll come again. The likes of Kildare have made progress, I would say. Meath under Colm O'Rourke, no idea how that's going to go. Depending on who he can bring in with him, talk about Eamon Fitzmaurice as a coach. I think if he is, they've got a chance. If he hasn't, I'd worry slightly about that. And I don't know, will Eamon Fitzmaurice come through on that ticket? I'm not sure what benefit it is to him personally, but maybe everyone likes a challenge, I suppose. Westmeath, after winning the Tailteann Cup, will be great. And by the way, Tailteann Cup was amazing, great. I mean, who knew? Play teams against similar ability consistently, can improve teams and put on a spectacle. Fantastic. Why not do it 5 years ago? But the GA moves slowly. The Tailteann Cup can be improved with round robin games. Get rid of this now north-south regional nonsense. Play more games. The new other reasons to be kind of positive about the future. A new structure in Championship, even though I'm not sure about it. It feels like another kind of Super 8 round robin phase. I'm not sure. I think there's far better ways of doing it, but more games against teams of similar ability will improve Championship, and I think that's always been my thing. Word of warning though, I've mentioned all those counties. I haven't mentioned Kerry and haven't mentioned Dublin. And still, for me, if I'm looking at All-Ireland champions, it's very, very difficult to look beyond Dublin or Kerry. Kerry now have got that monkey off their back, the first All-Ireland of how many? I don't know. I mean, their average age must be probably about 25.5, 26, something like that. Incredible stuff. David Clifford is just going to get better against younger players. Sean O'Shea, incredible player as well. Some of those defenders, Gavin White, Morley, O'Sullivan, brilliant, really great guys. Diarmuid O'Connor, incredible players. And also Dublin. To me, Dublin have underachieved the last 2 seasons. Whether Desi stays or not, I'm guessing he will, but at some stage there'll probably be a change there. I'd expect Dublin to be back again. The likes of Fenton, Kieran Kilkenny, Con, those Howard, those lads aren't going to be too far away from the All-Irelands. So there's a big chasing pack, but it's hard to look beyond Kerry and Dublin for the next few years. Now Tyrone came out of not nowhere, but rose up above a lot of teams there unexpectedly last season. So it'll be interesting to see, can any other team make that jump up. At the moment, I'm trying to think who that team will be. I'm struggling a little bit with that. Unless Mayo can do it. Unless, depending on their management, coaching, sports science, psychology, more coaching, all of that, maybe, because they're one of the very, very few teams who have the ability, who actually have that ability. And with two of their injured forwards back next season, you would hope a young team coming through, fresher team again, maybe they'd look at Galway and say, actually, you know what, we can do this. Maybe they have a chance there. But at this moment, Kerry will be favourites. Dublin will certainly, in my mind, be second favourites. And then you've got a bit of a chasing pack. But it's exciting stuff. It's my favourite sporting weekend of the year, even more than Champions League final, and that says a lot. Bar World Cup final, maybe. So it's a great occasion. I really, really enjoyed the game. So much learning from it. I love looking at the tactical stuff. And I hope everybody else enjoyed it too. That's it for now.